COVID funding revealed. The CARES Act of March 2020, signed by President Donald Trump, provided the U.S. Department of Education with more than $30.75 billion to assist states, schools grades K through 12, school districts, and institutions of higher education. This funding would cover a wide range of activities, including cleaning and sanitizing schools, purchasing educational technology such as laptops and hotspot devices, training educators to use online learning tools, ensure access to education for students with disabilities, and provide students emergency funding for food, housing, and other basic essentials. New York State was awarded $1,037,045,603. The CARES Act funding awarded Cold Spring Harbor $59,982. The Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021 was signed into law on December 2020. It provides an additional $4,053,060,000 for the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. New York State has been allocated $164.2 million under GEER. GEER is a flexible emergency block grant designed to allow governors to decide on how best to meet the needs of students, schools, post-secondary institutions, and other education-related organizations in their states. GEER includes allowable uses of funds related to preventing, preparing for, and responding to COVID-19, addressing learning loss, preparing schools for reopening, testing, repairing, and upgrading projects to improve air quality in school buildings. These are already permitted under the CARES Act. GEER 2. New York State was allocated $72.8 million under CRRSA's Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, released in January of 2021. American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 was signed in March by President Joseph Biden. This act provided billions of dollars to the educational system. Summary of K-12 educational provisions include funding for education, $123 billion for K-12 state education agencies, including $800 million for homeless children, $40 billion for institutions of higher education, $2.7 billion to governors for private schools, and $3 billion for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Distribution of K-12 funding, which include elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund. Local educational agency use of funds within 30 days of receiving funding. School districts must publish a plan to reopen schools for in-person instruction. In addition, at least 20% of funds must be used to address learning loss through evidence-based interventions that respond to students' academic, social, and emotional needs. The remaining funds can be used for any allowable use under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, Adult Education, and Family Literacy Act. Funds can also be used for such purposes as coordinating with public health departments, conducting activities to address the needs of students from low-income families, children with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and foster care youth, as well as purchasing educational technology, including hardware, software, and connectivity, as well as assistive technology or adaptive equipment. Funds may also be used for mental health services, addressing learning loss, school facility repairs to reduce risk of virus transmission and support student health, implementing public health protocols, including policies in line with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for school reopening, and implementing activities to maintain the operation and continuity of services and to employ existing staff. To receive funding, states must provide at least as much funding for K through 12 and higher education in fiscal years 2022 and 2023 as a proportion of the state's overall spending, averaged over fiscal years 2017, 2018, and 2019. However, this requirement can be waived by the Secretary of Education. In addition, states and districts must comply with new maintenance of equity requirements that prevent state and local funding cuts from disproportionately impacting high poverty districts and schools.
That is a lot of information to absorb, and the money is mind-boggling. So what do you do next? You can research your own school district. There will be links available to you so that you can research the amounts of money by state and by district, and in some cases by school. What I did is I had gone through our school district, which is called Spring Harbor, in the Huntington Township of New York. And according to the documents presented in the online series of government websites, the amount of COVID funding presented to Cold Spring Harbor school districts totals, to be exact, $1,306,300, and this was verified by the superintendent. The GEER money, which was part of the CRRSA funding, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, was given to Cold Spring Harbor in the total of $9,996. Following that, the second set of funds given to Cold Spring Harbor in GEER 2 was $381,010. Then we get to the America Rescue Plan, which totals $856,312 to Cold Spring Harbor. In all honesty, it's not as much money as you think when you start to look at the other districts on Long Island or in your community. Then I said, all right, let me go back and look at the budget. How does 1.3 million plus fall into our budget? Well, our annual revenue for the 2020-2021 budget is 72 million plus. And for 2021 and 2022, it was similar, 72 million plus. Our real estate taxes went from $65,819,000 and change to $66.5-ish million the following year. Our state aid rose from 2021 to 2022. There was a 20% increase from $3.5-ish million to $4.1-ish million. Other revenue came in, had increased as well, about 8% from $619,000 plus to $668,000 plus. And our financial aid for 2020 and 2021 was $719,580. We don't have the numbers for 2021 and 2022, so we use this other number to figure out how much our school had in funding. And when we look at the rate of what we have as far as funds per child, they both come out to close to or just above $44,000 per child when we look at our census of 1,638 kids. It's quite a bit of money. Then we looked at the money that we received from COVID funds, specifically the American Rescue Plan, which clearly indicates that you must follow the CDC guidelines in order to receive the funding. The other two funding packages did not have this statement. So we were thinking, is it possible that we accepted this money and now we're forced to follow CDC guidelines? And if we don't, we'll lose the funding? That statement has been made to me. And I said, that's really interesting. I was wondering whether or not the parents had the opportunity to vote on receiving this money or accepting this money, or if they even had any knowledge of it. And the bottom line is, they were not asked to participate in any way of approving or disapproving the receipt of this money. And we don't know exactly where the money has gone. We are in the process of asking for that information. What we did is we went a little bit further. We said, what would happen if we didn't take the money? For Cold Spring Harbor, the overall COVID funding per student in all three packages is $797. If we look at the total funding for the America Rescue Plan, which forces school districts to follow CDC guidance, it comes out to $522. I think our kids have a little bit more value than that. But if we put all together the American Rescue Plan funds that we received, which is a total of $855,036, and we reject that, we find that we have more control. We remain independent. Let's go a little further. Say we don't take the American Rescue Plan funds. We don't accept them. What would happen if we lost all funding? So let's make some assumptions. Let's assume that we lose state funding, which for 2021-22 comes out to $4,153,052, which is a total of $2,535 per student. Then if we lose the total ARP funding along with the state funding, it comes out to $3,057 per student. If we throw in the federal funding with that, we add an additional $439 per student. Our total losses in funding from the state, the federal government, and the COVID funds from the American Rescue Plan would equal a total of $3,496. Now keep in mind, this funding is not the government's. This funding is our money that they're giving back to us. So when we look at that and we say $3,496 per student, when at this point in time, we know that each student's revenue, if you will, or income to the school district is approximately $44,000. So our real estate taxes for 2021-2022 throughout the entire community total $66,475,936. If we didn't accept any outside funds, our losses would remain at $5,726,448, and we keep our independence. The total independent income per student remains at $40,538, and our overall revenue budget remains at $66,475,936. So I ask you, do we think that our 1,638 children in this community are worth the loss of $5,726,448? Do we think that the district can survive on $66,475,936? I think so, but it makes you wonder why they accepted the money. Everyone can do this in their community by easily looking back to your budgets, to the flow of revenues that come from different sources, and also focusing on the output to where the money is going. There are a lot of frustrated parents out there whose kids are being masked up, being forced to social distance, being harassed if they don't have the mask on properly or if they don't behave properly on the bus. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. If you're not frustrated, you don't have children in the school district. Parents are tired, kids are crying, and they're being robbed of their childhood. Do something about it.